crazy. And not just Florida.
Well, in July, August, hottest month ever.
Oh my God, it
Right.
was, it was so bad this year.
Nobody wanted to go to theme parks, unfortunately.
Right.
It was too hot.
It's 2:00. To get it started, feel like we want to move forward.
Yeah.
Right. Why don't we just go around the table and introduce ourselves for the camera? Who wants to start?
Kristen Marshall, Board of
Howard Ford, Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex.
Mike McBride, Cowbell Agency, you got it.
Keith Winston, Brevard Sue.
Well, Peter Kenneth at the Office of Tourism.
Heather Lewis, Ron John Surf Shop.
Christina Bourne, City of Palm Bay.
John D'Antonio, off the tourism.
Rebecca Azek, Anbar.
Christian Wojciechowski, and Bar.
Elizabeth Sears, Tourism Office.
Pete Alvarez.
Approval of the agenda.
Make a motion.
Second, first, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
The conflicts of interest. I believe today we're just discussing really an update. Marketing. We haven't met since July. We have not been since July. All right, so. Approval of the meeting minutes. Take that motion. Thank you.
Second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you.
So let us move over to discussion of updated marketing.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to give you a couple of updates. Since we last met, the marketing plan has been to the TDC twice. So it got approved unanimously the first time. It got approved 6-2 the second time with 2 Cocoa Beach hoteliers in abstention, or in the negative. And since that time, we've had a lot of feedback. We've taken it around, shared it with all the board members, all the commissioners have seen it. There's been a couple of iterations as a result of feedback coming from commissioners, county manager's office, et cetera. And the 3 big things that have what causes change. One, the commission, I don't know if you were tracking on this, but the commission voted to do away with some of the cultural committees funding for grants and for BCA. They designated those funds to be moved into marketing so that they could be utilized for lifeguards. And also directed the office to develop messaging. I don't want to say a campaign, but messaging, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, for reminding people to be safe and swim where there are lifeguards. And that was a result of some things happening over the last 6 months. With drownings, et cetera, and the need for some additional coverage. So that's one big thing. Secondarily, I think I brought up at the last meeting about the Cocoa Beach hoteliers not being perfectly happy with kind of where we were with our messaging and the amount of coverage that they were receiving. And since that time, they've been reaching out to commissioners and getting seeking the possibility of them getting some grant funding so that they could do some of their own marketing. But some of the feedback that we've been getting is that the commissioners would like to look at the opportunity for us to continue to shepherd those funds and maybe make some changes to our efforts, our marketing efforts. So we actually have some new creative today that I'm going to share in a few minutes that actually pays off some of that. So I think it's a perfect timing for kind of those discussions. So anyway, that's the main thing. The other piece of it really doesn't change, frankly, a whole lot from a budgetary perspective, but there's also some concern about the amount of funding that would go to what I would call District 2 messaging. District 2 is Cocoa Beach and the the request that be about 50% of the budget, which frankly, if you look at our past ads and ad rotations, it probably was about 50% anyway, because we were probably running Cocoa Beach 30–40% of the time. And then we were rotating in, we had a cruise campaign that we were running that was running in probably 10–15% of the budget. So it was probably pretty close to 50%, but there's just sort of an ask that we focus the funding that way.
So Peter, in a perfect world, you would show us the updated campaign. We would say, this is fabulous. It would go to the TDC, get approved again. Is that what happened?
I don't know at this point if we'll bring it back a third time. I don't think we're required to, frankly. And I think the board is sort of taking it in their hands at this point, and they're looking forward to seeing it on October 10th is when it's going before them. So I mean, there's no mandate that we have to do that, and I think the board would be comfortable if we were to just bring it to them on the 10th.
Okay, so the idea is if it goes through today, in a perfect world, we approve it, we like it. It goes back to the Board of County Commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
And the different people who are at play here, the folks who are worried about lifeguards and safety, the folks who are worried about enough focus on beaches in Cocoa Beach, they would all between now and then say, hey, we love it. And then the board would approve it, or it could go to the Board of County Commissioners, and then there could be additional concerns at that point. What do you see happening?
I mean, I think if the board approves the plan as it is on the 10th, I think then we just move forward that way. I don't think there's any further discussion.
So theoretically, it's going to go from here potentially back to the board, so everyone understands what's happening. There isn't any other review.
I don't think so. No.
Is it dramatically different?
Well, you'll see as we get into it. We're actually going to get into it right now. So the first thing I wanted to do, if I could just keep rolling here on number 3, is share the campaign that we had brought. Last year we were looking to kind of expand on the creative that we had been running with what we call Plus Space. And we're trying to come up with some new creative that maybe wasn't quite so focused on launches, but did still honor kind of the heritage of the community and who we were. So we called it the Countdown campaign. And so these ads really have not changed a whole lot. There's click on that. Thank you. Okay, there we go. So if you remember, this was a series of these could be digital, these could be actually done in billboard, etc. The big change that we made is we kind of put the municipality at the top, and then we are paying it off at the bottom with sort of a on Florida Space Coast. So that'll kind of be a theme you'll see through all the new creative, where Florida Space Coast is still part of the ad. It's still a message, but it's sort of a secondary to the municipality, which is playing the primary role. So that gets.
Do we comment as we go, or do we?
Let me go through the 4. There's 4 of these. You guys have already seen these and basically, weighed in on them, but absolutely, let's go through the 4 of them, and then you can comment. And then I've got a TV spot that we executed based on this creative, which you guys had also seen the storyboards on, and I wanted to show that so you can kind of get the feel for how that kind of got finished out. So there was Melbourne, Titusville, and then the Palm Bay. So yeah, open the floor for.
You want to go to TV first?
Yeah, we can show the TV.
We'll put the, let's go.
Okay. We got to switch over, so just give it a second here.
10 seconds and counting. 9, 8, ignition sequence start. 7, T-minus 6, 5, all engines running. 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
That's a nice TV ad.
Yeah, I was, rarely do you see a storyboard get executed at the level that got executed. Like it was like literally those were the pictures in our head, and then, Christian's teams, the creative director at Ambar, his team, had these storyboards laid out, and it really came to fruition pretty much just like it was laid out on the storyboard. So things that could be done with that, but now that we've actually shot a lot of footage. So we've got a lot of beach footage now, and we've got a lot of, good kind of B-roll, if you will. So we can now adapt that, and I think I see some uses for the beach campaign. When you see that, we'll be able to turn that into some video, and so I think there's some adaptation that we can do. But we purposely, when we knew that we were going to go and do a shot, I think it was like about a 3-day shoot, something like that, 3 or 4 days. We purposely got a lot of extra footage so we could use it for other things. So.
Okay, comments on the current sort of campaign?
Yeah, but I always go.
The rest of us have any comments? You might be going last too. I've seen most of this before. Okay, thank you for it.
I seem to remember that some of our discussion was based around other municipalities having some challenges or feelings towards Cocoa Beach being like the main portion. I know we're saying 50% we're splitting it up. Do we see any issues with, or not necessarily issues, but challenges that would be faced with conversations of having the municipalities at the top and creating more of that narrative?
At this point, the feedback that I've been getting from the commissioners has been, no, that's what they're looking for.
Okay.
So I'm going to follow the leadership direction there.
Okay. TV spot's nice. These ads concern me from a creative perspective, just because what we've essentially done for politics is replace a headline, which will typically have a hook and just kind of the creative juice to it, with a city name. And to me, it just kind of falls flat, and countdown to your best beach vacation is very much secondary. It's hard to read for one thing, but it's a picture with a caption.
I have to agree with you in the sense, I think people do go to Cocoa Beach as a destination. I don't know how many people go, hey, I'm going to Palm Bay. Right? It's not Palm Bay.
Area.
They don't go to Vieira. They don't go to Titusville. They go, Cocoa Beach is a destination the rest aren't. I wonder, Peter, if you could switch it around and put countdown to your best beach vacation at the top, and then switch the right by the countdown, and then switch the name of the municipality here. So it does become the label for where you are.
I would love that.
And I think you might still get the location there, but then it all makes sense. Does that make sense?
And then it ties into the on Florida space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then maybe that would clean it up, because where you're going is you're going to your best beach vacation. These are different places you're good at yours.
Well, and the call to action, which is your countdown to your beach vacation, is not linked right now
Yeah.
to basically the descriptive element, which is the actual countdown.
Yeah.
Right, so you're missing a bit of the descriptive element connection.
You think that would meet the needs of the people out there?
Yeah, I don't know, but there's a couple of different ways we could try to position it. So, you have the countdown clock at the top. Maybe that goes a little bit lower, and the headline becomes the countdown to your best vacation. And possibly the municipality could still live at the top, or it could live in the middle. So yeah, there's a couple of different ways we could look at it and try to play with it.
Well, it could even still live at the top, but it shouldn't get a headline treatment. If there was a bar or something like that just kind of segregated it and kind of gave it more of a category look, then, hey, this is our key message, Palm Bay.
Right. Okay. Something definitely something we'll look at. Any other thoughts? Okay. So, as you recall a little bit, we have done some research about the beaches, and we were able to share a little bit of that research on what people kind of were interested in and looking at when they came on a beach vacation, and sort of the result of that, along with some of the other direction that we kind of been receiving, led to a couple of different executions of a beach campaign. So all of these could be used together. They could be used separately. There's actually kind of what I would call 3 iterations. They all address the request that the board had about incorporating something regarding lifeguards. So we treated that in a certain way, and you'll see how we handled that. And that's pretty consistent throughout, but that we're also open to input on those things as well. So when we get right into it, this is the first of as I said, of 3 different iterations. So here's the first one. Again, all of these could be scaled and resized and repositioned, but obviously we scaled it as a billboard. If you see the swim there, a lifeguard and the kind of the button that we created. And then you see the on Florida Space Coast on the bottom right. So that's kind of the payoff on all of these. And then you see kind of the Big Cocoa Beach, sun-soaked perfection. Here's another one, Cocoa Beach, Orlando's closest beach. Now, we've used that line before, and it's, been on and off probably over the last 10, 15 years. So it's been a pretty strong line for
Keep claim.
Here's another one, more in the smaller, just in a smaller format, different photo. Digital. And then here for Melbourne, the beaches, the more the merrier. Racing to the water. I think there's one more. No. Okay, so that's it for the first set. I'll kind of just go back through it real quick so you can. And then Melbourne. Yeah. So, and then we could also do others for like Sebastian Inlet if we wanted. So this just kind of sets up the direction, but certainly wanted to pay off the municipalities in these.
So I mean, 2 thoughts. I find them striking, but they're a little visually cluttered with so much stuff going on. And the thing that's bothering me, and I don't think you've ran on yet, I know this is new, is the lifeguard. Because I don't know how you talk about beach safety, but I think you have to be very careful. If you say something like, our beaches are safe, that raises the issue. Why are you telling me that?
Yeah.
And if you tell me swim near thing, that would send me up until 5 years ago screaming away from that beach. Because it makes me think I have to swim where lifeguards are. And I don't want that. I want the freedom to go where I want to go. So that seems to me like that has to be really carefully tested, because I don't know who searches for beaches based on safety. And until we know who that matters to, I don't know how you address it.
It seems reactionary.
Yeah, I think you're actually either shining a light on an issue we don't want to shine a light on, because I don't know if statistically our beaches are any less safe than they've ever been. I mean, things happen in clumps, right? So if there's no safety issue, why are we raising? And if we want to do, we want to do as an option, not as, so I don't know, lifeguards available, something. But I think you have to be very careful, because I look at that, not only does it clutter stuff, but I look at it and from somebody who's like, I don't want lifeguards looking after me, right? That was a point in my life. Now I need them. But at a certain point in my life, I didn't need them and I really wouldn't want them. So it needs to be a choice somehow. Unless we're saying.
I feel like the people that drown fall in that first category that you just said, because they think they don't need them. And the fact that when you come here, you really do need them.
Well, if that's what we're willing to say, I mean, if that is what we're willing to say is we don't want people swimming when there's no lifeguards, then that's great. But I don't think, I don't know if we're willing to draw that line in the sand and say, we only want you to swim with your lifeguards, great. But if you're willing to go there, you're going to lose some audience.
I mean, there's different ways to say it too.
Yeah.
I mean, featuring lifeguarded beaches or something like that.
Right.
Make it a positive instead of a red
It's a
flag.
command.
I mean,
right
you're
now.
using red for God's sakes. Your eye is drawn to that,
Mhm.
and that's not a good thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, particularly the
Could it
wording.
just be visually just small down at the bottom, written in white or green or something, more ocean water, maybe just swim near a lifeguard
Or
or.
great lifeguards available, or we have great lifeguards, or something. I don't know. That celebrates it as a wonderful option for your family, not a command. Because right now it looks like a command.
It looks like a cautionary advisory.
Mhm. Mhm. Interesting. Yeah, one of the things we looked at is would we do something specifically, and if you see some of our social media posts that we worked on around this, that actually would show like the lifeguard stands, explaining the flag system, when it's red, obviously, don't be cautious, things like that. And we were kind of talking about should we do some advertising creative that actually features our lifeguards and promotes them in a way, in a more positive way. So I don't know. That might be going more towards to what you were saying though, which is drawing more attention.
Well, I don't know what the problem was. I mean, I don't want to be callous. What are the problems? Are we trying to fight a perception, or are we trying to fight a reality? If in fact our beaches have gotten more dangerous, then there's a reality to deal with.
Right.
If it was just a perception because we had some incidents that's not real, deal with it a different way. If there's really a life issue, a safety issue, we should not cover that up. But
Yeah, I mean, there's, without going into too many of the numbers, our numbers are significantly higher this year. And one of the things, if you recall, last year we got 2 storms really affected the currents, and the number of rip currents and the strength of the rip currents is right now we're just in a cycle of them being much stronger than they've ever been. Some of that's going to be solved with some of the beach renourishment projects that we've got coming up over the next year or so, but it's going to take probably some time for that sand to get repositioned and for that issue particularly to subside. But we are in a cycle where we've got a lot more rips going on, and
then we do have, if that's the case, then we do have a responsibility to say what you're saying.
Yeah, but we can just say, we've got lifeguard safe beaches.
maybe not quite as strongly.
And not in red.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good way to put it too, lifeguard safe beaches, done. Something simple like that, maybe not in red, put it to match the tone of what you're looking at and.
I think you need to be careful with that phrase because not all of our
Not
beaches
every
have
beach.
lifeguards. So
Yeah.
I think then we're making a statement
You could say
making-
use are or available,
Yeah.
lifeguards, something.
Yeah, lifeguard safe beaches, well,
Thanks to our
we could
funding.
actually number them.
Or just say multiple
we got-
lifeguard safe beaches.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and fortunately,
fine.
thanks to our funding,
Correct.
we'll have more beaches that'll be started than previously, so.
More lifeguards than ever.
Well, so beaches that don't.
Yeah, and we have a landing page that kind of outlines that, and then in our social, our plans were to be to show like the maps of where they are and kind of be a little bit more specific about where you can find them. And, once we get them kind of out of the ad mode and get them into our universe, we can direct people pretty easily.
So I just want to be clear, 'cause I think safety should be our number one concern. So if we do have these concerns that right now, then it should be something that encourages people to use lifeguard beaches, right? At the same time, recognizing that this is their option, but it should encourage them. So if you find language that does that.
Even better. We can have language on there that directs them to the website for lifeguard safe beaches. Right. So then we have them at the website where we've got all of our stuff going.
Right.
Depending on the media, I'm a little concerned that we've got a lot, and I think somebody already mentioned this, a lot of messages on here, and I'm not sure we're doing a service to all of them. And that it's gonna get through, like on a billboard, this is a lot of material to have on there for people to catch.
So you wanna, so going to your point, Heather, which I think is great, you wanna split this up, Peter, do the wonderful beach life, and then have other billboards that just encourage people to use beaches with life. Would that be more effective? So put it on everyone, that'd be a more effective campaign, make this, imagine this just said Melbourne, more than there, but then have some billboards that really encourage you, to take care of your family, enjoy our lifeguard patrol beaches or something. then maybe that's a better campaign and not clutter it.
Could still be a claim. So we've got 72 miles of beaches. We may actually have more miles of lifeguarded beaches than any other place in Florida.
That's an interesting thought.
That's huge.
We care about your safety or something.
You know, I don't start nothing, won't be nothing. You know, if you're out there scaring folks, then it's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't go to a beach. Let's go to Nashville instead. You know? But that's just one of the issues with this creative.
You want to look at the next set?
One thing,
Well,
I wanna just, I'm sorry I'm hitting this hard, but I think if we do feel like it is a responsibility to make sure people use lifeguards at beaches, and I think we should feel that way, then I think we do it right. I mean, so that's, and once you go down that road, I think finding the best way to communicate to people and encourage them is important.
Can you just flip through these one more time? Sure. All right, so again, for the sake of politics, we've kind of dropped our key differentiator for beaches, and that is any connection to space. And we've replaced it with a lot of clutter. You know, so this kind of the first time in seeing multiple creative presented that I'm just not liking it. You know, I don't think it's doing anything for us in terms of highlighting anything in particular, except that we got featured. There's a legibility problem too that I just. Well, yeah.
Are you wanting to like incorporate faith into it and make that more of a highlight where it would be like sun, sand, face, and then a launch up behind them?
Well, that's
Something
part
like
of the
that?
contentious nature of politics right there, and particularly with the Cocoa Beach instigators. You know, they don't like the inclusion of space and with the beach stuff. So, okay, I get stepping back a little bit with that, but you know, we're not only back to where it could be anywhere along Florida. It's
Right.
it's a less compelling execution of anywhere in Florida. You know, and because the legibility is a problem, we're not reading any, you know, key claim into it. Our branding is lost because of the way it's used against imagery. And, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, we're looking at billboards or, you know,
Could be
what
digital.
could be digital or whatnot. With digital, you got a lot more things you can work with and you can even things out. With if this were presented as billboards, well, it's breaking all kinds of cardinal rules with billboards, you know, especially with regard to legibility. So, you know, we're already under the fire on our creative. I think we've had some really good stuff in the last couple of years. We're just opening ourselves up here, you know, because anybody's gonna look at this and have the same thoughts.
Is it it's just a beach and could be anywhere in Florida?
Well, it's not that it's just generic, it's just, you know, execution. It's just kind of all kinds of problems. And if we've got new imagery, you know, that should be the star. That, you know, that should be something that people are reading a lot of things into. It doesn't have to be kind of pounded back by, you know, and I get, I mean, I use text that way a lot of times too, but in our case where it's destination, there's kind of a priority that you really have to look at with it.
you're trying to feed a couple of mouths, right? So you're trying to feed
More than a few.
three mouths, but it's really three mouths here, right? You want to be true to our campaign and our campaign history, which is the Space Coast and that space imagery, which we think has been very effective. Then you're also trying to meet the people who think we should be pushing more beach and trying to also meet the needs of the people who should push Cocoa Beach. So it is trying to do like three things, right? And that's a lot.
And then you have the lifeguard thing as kind of another add-on,
Yeah, so it's four things. And again, I think if we do lifeguards, we really should, to me, we're not attracting people to Brevard because we have lifeguards.
No, right.
We want to make sure that when people come here, they use the lifeguard beaches. So it looks to me like a completely different campaign. It's really a safety campaign, which I think we have a responsibility to do. So I could almost put that aside and say, once you're here, welcome to Brevard County. We have fabulous beaches. Here's how to keep your family really safe while you're here, or any beach, go to the, so to me, if you split that out, if there's a way you can figure that out, that unclutters it and actually serves people better. Because it's a different thing. It's not about we're not going to attract them here. We figure that. So then you got those other three masters that you're trying to work with. And I don't know, I don't know how to, you guys have done a great job with creative traditionally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
And I would say, if I had to lean in, if I had to lean into any one of these, I'd lean into that message because that's the thing that differentiates Cocoa Beach from any other beach.
Yes.
Is that it's Orlando's closest beach. I mean, the fact is with you, like at least when I started in 19 and we laid out all of our competitive that, all of the beaches around the state and Caribbean and, all the ads look very, very similar. Beautiful beach, beautiful people. It's a formula, right? I mean, it's relatively easy to do.
Right.
Nothing that I saw in our creative at the time was differentiating ourselves from those. So that's where the rocket, I think, the rocket and the launches and that heritage came in. Maybe we leaned into it a little too hard for some people. But that was kind of where we said, hey, this is something different. It didn't look like everybody else's ad. So, these do start looking like other people's ads. And I think what is the differentiator, whether we're talking about Melbourne or we're talking about Cocoa Beach or anywhere along the coast. So this one, I would say, I could defend this one pretty heartily. I think it's got a unique message to it. And then,
it's the better executed one too.
yeah,
I mean, I think Orlando's closest beach is the thing too.
yeah.
The message is unique when you run with a whole campaign of.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, when I say a whole campaign, the Cocoa Beach component of the campaign could be that. And then, from a Melbourne perspective, we're basically the capital of sea turtle nesting.
It's the most important.
That's the other one.
Sea turtle nesting beach in the world.
And so, and then when I think about like Titusville and the bioluminescence, I mean, that's something you don't have anywhere else. So of course, then you also have Kennedy Space Center. And so that's another, so Titusville has a couple of unique propositions. Palm Bay, really the fishing, the uniqueness of the fishing and the strength of their estuaries and things now, the bass fishing is unbelievable.
Beautiful, that's.
The new areas down there are just that. So I think if you focus in on the things that make us or make those areas unique, that's where you win because other places can't claim that. By the way, just did the fifth wave of our brand research. I just got the early results on it, and 20% of the people that come here go fishing. I was floored by that because it used to be like 10%, but now it's like up to 20%. Well, because the reputation, we've done a lot with spokespeople. So we've got a couple of big fishing guys that are on the fishing network and on these outdoor shows talking about Palm Bay now, and they're filming their shows here. We had Major League Fishing here about a year and a half ago come and actually do a fishing tournament here. So we're getting known for that, and apparently it's working because when we were looking at activities, it was about 20%.
So maybe the direction we can give you that would be helpful, looking at right here is, great, create some great beach stuff, but it has to have a distinguishing feature in
Right.
it, right?
Something.
And if it's not space, which is what defines our whole coast, then
Right.
something else distinctive, whether it's Orlando's closest beach, deep turtles.
Can I just say one thing? And again, it's the first year I've been on this committee. Maybe you've already done this 100 times. I'm really not sure. My thoughts are, I've lived in Florida my whole life, born and raised in Brevard County. So the only place that we have that I know of, that I think we all know of, that there is a pier in this entire county,
Mhm.
Cocoa Beach. Why weren't one of those pictures maybe turned around where you can see that beautiful pier out in the water
Mhm.
with the
We have,
sun,
we have
bar,
the
of course,
those photos,
with a great bar that everybody loves to go have a drink at the edge of that bar. It looks like you're on the edge of the earth. And it's just something different that we don't have in any of the other beaches on the 72 miles. Am I right? I mean, that's our only pier. Am I
Yeah.
right? That,
No,
that's-
I think there's peers.
I mean, the
in
big,
other
the big
destinations.
pier in the city, like Palm Bay,
Yeah.
Melbourne, nothing like that, where we have any kind of pier out on the beach for the
It's,
public.
it's a pinnacle point in Cocoa Beach that we have exploited a lot.
Okay.
mean,
figured.
For really decades. And even, with the rocket launches in the background and all that
It's all
kind of
been
stuff.
done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, it is great for that. And, particularly since I don't know, the developers that took it over, I don't know how long it's been, 10 years now? I mean, they really made it into a destination.
I think the thought, and I think it's certainly worth featuring, is our competitive set is other counties.
Mhm.
So we're not competing internally, we're competing against the rest of Florida, and there are a lot of other peers on the rest of Florida. So how do we distinguish us
Okay.
from them? So I think it is a worthwhile.
That one might be the one that you do put a launch up in front of, because I mean, that's the one thing that is different.
You can watch it from up here,
Yeah.
like, that's a nice way to connect us, that's a great
And that's
idea.
what people want to, when they come here.
Right, and it is a distinguishing characteristic.
That's just that.
So I think, Peter, if I can, people, I don't want to speak, I don't want to close it off, but if you can focus these on these unique parts of what it then
Yeah.
makes our beach unique, then it can really focus on the wonderful beaches.
Yeah.
Because I think our beaches work well, but I was gonna say we have Ronchets here, but you guys have it at so many other beaches, we can't even make that claim in Florida, right? How many Florida beaches are you on now? You proved that, so,
Thanks
thanks. We could have claimed Ronchets,
so
but
much for that.
you're everywhere.
Peter, is this a seasonal campaign year round? What's the thought process?
Yeah, I mean, here's my feeling about beach. We really have year round. The problem is our seasons aren't year round. And I feel like we need to do more to highlight December to February, because by the time we get to February, we're in the spring break and that mentality. And that's kind of when we start running that advertising. But I feel like in the fall, we should be talking about the beaches of winter almost, because you come here from Maine or Chicago or any northern city in December, January, February, maybe you won't go in the water, but you certainly can hang out on the beach and enjoy the weather. So when I go down my dad lives down in Palm Beach County, and you can't get a hotel room in January. But here it's not like that. So I feel like we have opportunity in that shoulder
We really
season.
found November, December is like best weather to visit the city. That's some of our lightest visitation.
Yeah.
Because we don't have tourists here. So if you can crack that code, I
Yeah.
think we'd all appreciate it.
Okay. Shall we go to the next series? So this was a little slightly different, a little bit of maybe a nod to the beach feeling with the colors and the font. Just something slightly different than what we've done before. Cocoa Beach does happy hour. Cocoa Beach does art shows.
This is a whole separate campaign.
This is the same
Option.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, we can use all of them, or we can use adaptations of all of them. So, but it is different in terms of looking at the messaging and the fonts and everything. of Cocoa Beach does water parks. I kind of like that one. One of our new photos. And then Melbourne, how members just getaway.
This is the only one that focuses on the unique feature of the network beaches, which is.
Yeah,
Which is, again, the same comment as the other, right?
so that's, yeah.
Definitely better.
More readable.
My eye still goes to the lifeguard thing, so that's.
But if we do a separate campaign for that,
Separate campaign, or maybe shrink it and put it in the bottom corner, instead of making it.
Well, shrinking it just makes it useless when you're talking about wraparound type that is already that small. It needs to be redesigned as a badge. And particularly reworded so that it's not so cautionary.
Peter, what, as you guys have been looking at this is a separate campaign, obviously, this whole idea of lifeguard beaches. What percentage of the media are you looking at?
I mean, this is gonna be the, a big chunk of our media rotation. Because, we're kind of moving away from the plus space campaign now and, we've got the countdown, but this will be a whole new set of creative. So the more, that's why I'm saying all of these could be used because the more the merrier for this, to make sure we have enough, different things.
so can I ask just a big destination marketing tactic piece? We compete with other destinations because we throw a lot of resources behind the campaign, right? So that people see it multiple times,
Right.
right? If we splinter our campaigns, that takes away from its overall effectiveness, I assume. So we gotta be cautious about trying too many things. We already are gonna have a smaller budget than other places with beaches, right? I'm assuming some of the West Coast beaches have bigger TDC budgets than we do, or
We've got a pretty competitive budget this year.
So we don't want to split it, so.
And I'm sorry, I also didn't mention that, but we also have the cruise campaign that we have been running. So that's another sort of a third channel, if you will, a little smaller, narrow focus because we only focus on people that are searching for cruise or looking for cruise. But that's another piece of that pie.
How do you like to split your dollars? How many campaigns do you think is ideal?
I mean, last year we ran 3, but the cruise was the smallest of them. It's probably 10%. And then the plus space was probably 40-50%. And then we rotated in this past summer, we started rotating in the countdown. So probably about half, about 50% there.
Well, if it's thematically or messaging different campaign to campaign, I think it leads to continuity of education to be there. And like Keith says, you want to be able to see at a glance that, oh, there's another message from Space Coast.
Right.
How lovely.
Right. Yeah, and again, on Florida Space Coast is going to be on everything, and I would like it to be consistent across whatever campaign we're running, and that it's always there, so it's always that payoff, wherever we have it located in the ad, but at least it's always part of that on Florida Space Coast is always there.
That's the big connector.
Yeah,
That's important.
yeah, that's sort of the talking about what Tom was saying about Ford F-150 at the last TDC meeting, is like how Ford focuses on the vehicle, but they always have the Ford logo in the, there. I mean, that Ford logo is always everywhere. So make sure we have our payoff on it everywhere.
Yeah. So the one thing that I think a lot of us would be kind of like, beating down a little bit, the differentiation, right? And looking at all these, it does look like a lot of other beach places that it could be. We're called the Space Coast for a reason, and we think that, and it's good to be even keeled and look at it, but to walk away totally from that idea of faith is, I'm personally, I think it's a mistake for us. Right? We're walking away totally from the ones thing that we absolutely have that nobody else does. And while it should be a better balance, to make it 0, which does not add in here that says anything about space, I think that's a disservice.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, what I'm showing right now is our beach, sort of beach campaign. So do we add do we add a rocket going up over a beach? I mean, we could add, that into a rotation, but we do have other ads that have rocket.
That's what happened.
With
Yeah.
the cruise ships, right in the background.
I was about to say, right?
Come on, cruise
It's
ships.
beach and cruise, right? Those
All
are
the
two
time.
distinguishing things.
Yeah. And so many cruise ships and rocket ships photoshopped into backgrounds with images. So here's an idea, maybe kill two birds with one stone.
First two birds with one stone.
I'm sorry. Here's that animal insensitivity. So if we did like a mission badge, that kind of looked like your standard space mission badge, that was about mission safety, with lifeguard beacons type of thing. We could have both the lifeguard statement with a little bit of a NASA flair to it. Instead of just a generic icon.
Right.
That's not really
Right.
original.
Yeah.
Well, and you could even have a woven look to it, like it was just, not just a flat graphic, but something that adds dimension to the ad as well.
And would you see it as a standalone, or could it be used in concert with some of these messages?
But it could be used with all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still something that's kind of stuck in the corner, or in some instances featured prominently when we're talking about, how we've expanded our lifeguard program and blah, blah, blah.
Can I put our Ambar partners on the spot for a second, because you're here, I'm curious your thought. Let me put you on the spot, but you live in this creative, and you don't have to do it, but I'm curious about your thoughts about either stuff we're getting right or we're missing here.
Well, candidly, I believe in discipline. We, an entity that has great discipline is the military. I believe within the military, despite for that. The marketing should have one shot. What I think Michael mentioned, it maybe too many messages. One. So if it's lifeguard safety or the idea that safety campaign. Cocoa Beach, forgive me, if there's political issues with focusing on Cocoa Beach, that could be its own campaign. And then any municipality should again be its campaign. So I believe we're maybe putting too much in one thing. But I do believe separate campaign, one message, especially in billboard. And if you can do that in billboard, you can do it in TV.
So better, what I'm hearing, just to pare it back, is better to have multiple campaigns than you just do one thing well.
Yes.
And try to load up your creative to try to do everything badly.
Delicate balance then is how do you spend the dollars to do right? And
I mean, you can control that on the media side pretty easily, so.
Well, and we're talking about just a few different types of media, because again, digital gives us opportunity to rotate through several methods.
Yeah. And even TV nowadays, I mean, you can run, you can create 3 or 4 30-second spots pretty easily. It's not super expensive, and we've got the footage to do it. You just slice it and dice it slightly differently.
So this is probably for maybe a future campaign or something, but I would think it'd be really cool to see creative that is done primarily from a mom's perspective. So if safety is becoming an issue with beach destinations and all that, she's got a very unique perspective on all of this for taking her family on vacation. And I think there could be a lot of fun had with the headlines on something like that.
So just to sum up what I think I've heard, to see if they've had a lot of discussion. We think, or people come to the idea of separate the campaign out to do what they do well. So if we want to do a lifeguard safety campaign, pull that out. If we want to do Cocoa Beach, pull it out. We also prefer, if you're going to do Cocoa Beach for municipalities, still point out what makes us distinctive from other places.
But I mean, the one that we've got up on screen now, that's really only doing 3 things. That's, selling Cocoa Beach, selling the Space Coast, and selling dangerous beaches. So I'm good with two of the three.
Well, I think we also said we still want to always tie it in on Florida Space. We want that to remain.
Right.
That's important. So that would get it down to two. We bring the bad dog. Selling Cocoa Beach on Florida Space Coast. And we prefer if you could sell Cocoa Beach as something unique, but if you're gonna do a campaign, some of them are just gonna be a lovely billboard, and that's okay.
Yeah, I guess the last. Oh, I'm not gonna make any promises. The last comment on it is, I hate to see the Space Coast brand relegated to almost an afterthought, stuck someplace. And I know our logo makes it difficult for just kind of sticking it someplace. Particularly when you've got the image background. It's so relegated there.
Other, we're about to get people up by 3 today. I think we're pretty sharp down. Other comments? You guys feel heard? Peter, is this helpful?
It is helpful, and I just have two quick, again, another iteration. And there's only two of these because we didn't really blow this one out, but okay, so this was the end of the sort of that, what I would call the more nostalgic kind of font. And then,
Cool.
yeah, cool. I mean, it says beach. This was just another, for nothing else, I just, the imagery on it was the new imagery that we have. So, there's one, the beach getaway. And just, again, just something a little
I think what you heard from us is if you.
similar
Out,
kind of,
then it's a nice looking billboard. I'm just looking at it as a billboard, but whatever.
yeah.
And that some of it's not gonna have unique. We love it when it is unique, but some of it's not. It's just gonna be Cocoa.
And particularly these have a nice, clean, to the point, readable.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to show them because some of the comments were like too much on them. This is a little simpler, gets more to the heart.
So there are more of these?
No, well, we only got to two of these,
Okay.
but we can have the agency work on some more.
These are nice. Like Heather says, these are very clean. They look good, and there's enough going on in it when you get it. But they're more environmental. To where the first group was really focused on the people. And, I love that it's, portraying a very experiential thing, but you have to have the environment. There's got to be enough of it to appreciate where they are. And, what they can get.
I think it gives a thought that you work with the agency on. That was it. Thank you on that. One last thing, if I might. So as you know, or as I said earlier, the county commission kind of changed up some things with the cultural committee. There may be an opportunity for some of those events to come back, but under the marketing. So you guys might be on tap in November. We don't have currently a meeting plan, but we might call you guys to come together to look at a new event grant that we're putting together with the input of the county commission, and the TDC will see a set of guidelines next week. But the idea would be to kind of go look at any event, whether it be sports or cultural or really any kind of event that might bring people from outside the county into the community, look at a marketing reimbursement program. So the funds would be funded from a couple of different sources. There are funds still available in the cultural bucket. There's also funds that we have in our sports budget that have been used for events. And that would be kind of lumped together. We don't know what the total amount is yet. That'll be the TDC and the board kind of picking that, but it could be like a $500,000 pot of money that then would be used to help events who are promoting themselves outside the area to bring people in, to help reimburse that. And so we would just have, obviously we always want our eyeballs from a committee on looking at any of our grant programs. So it's not us picking winners and losers, but you guys can help with just eyeballing them and the selection. And one of the things we're able to get is we know the event attendance, out of county attendance, we're able to get through some cellular data software we have. And then we, with anything that's sporting related, we're able to look at the number of room nights. So we're able to kind of translate that into an attendance based on that. So it'd be the committee not necessarily scoring them the way we've done in other committees, but more just eyeballing the events and kind of giving us the nod that, yeah, these make sense. And yes, we should reimburse their.
And the formulas would be quite, the payouts would be formula driven.
Everything would be formula driven. So the guidelines will be decided by the TDC and the board. So the committee doesn't have to like opine over, did we give them 10 or 5 or 15 or 20? No, that'll all be kind of in the guidelines laid out. So it makes it a lot easier.
So what I never understood is, there's pretty strict parameters and all that stuff anyway. If you got an event, you want to promote it outside the county, great, okay. Do it and then here's your money, all that. We've got the best media buying power
Right.
of any organization in the county, particularly a nonprofit. Why aren't we just acting as the media buying agency for the ones that are selected? And this also regulates the money to change hands after the fact,
Right.
not before the fact, where, there's.
So there's a positive and a negative to that. The positive is absolutely, then we would control how the money was spent, but we could also take advantage of other media that we're buying at the same time. So there'd be some efficiency. I think that would make sense in some cases, and that will be an option for the TDC to look at and the board. So that will be an option. The negative side of it is for newer events or events that might not occur. You take the risk of spending that money. So like if we went, let's say we went out and we found a new soccer tournament to bring 1,000 kids here, but then all of a sudden something happens and, they're not able to execute the event. We don't want to be sort of a pound in, having spent money on that event when the event doesn't necessarily.
But it gets spent anyway, because, if you're marketing an event, it's always before the event.
Right.
So,
But if the event doesn't occur, then you've spent the money and you're not able to recoup.
And not only that, you are now the one who advertised an event.
Right. So that's the only kind of downside that I'm worried about is some of our events.
Fire festival.
Everything's a reimbursement today. So if that event doesn't happen, we're not out a dime. But if we go out and spend 15,000-20,000 on an event and it doesn't happen, then it's on us. So that's the only downside. But for events that have a good consistent history, like I give an example of Thunder on Cocoa Beach. We know what happens every year. They're not going anywhere. It's going to keep happening. Yeah, that's a great idea where we could take 25, 30 grand and spend that money on their behalf and probably get more media out of it than they could. So I think in some cases it would work well, but in other cases it might not be as good.
well, as part of the vetting process,
Right.
how much protection there is, but
Yeah.
either way, somebody's out all of those media dollars if an event doesn't happen at the last minute.
Yeah, 100%, but I'd rather it be them than me.
Well, you've already committed a bunch of them ahead of time.
It's all our grants are reimbursement right now. So yeah, we don't lose any money if events don't happen. So, thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Mike, you're in charge now.
Whatever.
That's scary. Anyway, that's all I had. If there's anything else we needed to go around, if we wanted to open it up to public comment. Mr. Vice Chair.
I've said plenty.
Okay. Any public comment? Okay. I'll let you call for an adjournment.
Am I seriously vice chair?
I don't know.
I know I wasn't here that one.
She said it. Weren't
You walked in as we
You're
go.
vice chair.
Locked in. We're adjourned.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Myself.